Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are glad that you're here to hear an update on the Lytle Creek Recreation Area. My name is Marisa Campos-Trouts. I'm on the Community Outreach team with SBCOG. We're going to wait a few minutes and give folks a chance to log on and get situated. Our formal presentation will begin around 6:40 this evening. Before we do jump in with the presentation, I'm going to share some information to help you get acquainted with the Zoom webinar platform and what you can expect during tonight's presentation. Please note this meeting is being recorded. We have Spanish interpretation available. If you're interested in listening to tonight's presentation in Spanish, please select Spanish as your language of preference. From the options at the bottom of your screen. All participants will be on mute and cameras have been disabled. You'll be able to see our presenters during the presentation. We will have a PowerPoint presentation tonight, followed by an opportunity for questions and answers. So we will get through the entire PowerPoint presentation, and then we will open up the Q&A portion of the webinar tonight. In addition to the presentation, we'll also be polling the audience with a few questions. This will allow us to get to know our audience better, let us know where you're joining us from, and it will also help us to customize our communications for future presentations on this topic. How do I ask a question? So if you're new to Zoom webinar, you'll just select the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that button, you'll see this pop up on your screen. You can type your question here and hit send. A member of our team will be monitoring the Q&A box. And again, we will answer the questions in the order received at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. If you are joining us over the phone and are not able to view the presentation or cannot answer your questions in, feel free to email them in to us at info@gosbcta.com. We're going to do our best to answer all questions received this evening. But if for some reason we cannot get to your question before the meeting wraps up at 7:30, please rest assured a member of our team will be responding to all questions received. And we'll make sure that we connect you with the appropriate team member to get the information that you need. Thank you so much. If you're just joining us, our presentation is going to get started at 6:40 tonight. We're just giving a few moments for everybody to log in, get situated, and we'll be getting started in just a few minutes. If you're interested in reviewing any of the documents that are being discussed during tonight's webinar, please visit GoSBCTA/Lytle Creek. All of the documents that are being discussed during tonight's presentation are posted there. In addition, the recording of this webinar will be posted as well as the PowerPoint presentation that you'll see this evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we're just waiting a few minutes. We'll get started about 6:40 tonight with our formal presentation. We're just giving folks a chance to log on, get situated. We want to thank you for taking time out of your evening to be with us. We hope you find the information in this webinar helpful and informative. Following the PowerPoint presentation, we'll have an opportunity for Q&A with our panelists. As mentioned, please use the Q&A box that can be found at the bottom of your screen to enter your questions. And then following the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to answer the questions in the order received. Again, if you are joining us using the dial-in option and unable to view the webinar live, please email us your questions and we'll be answering those questions as well. Email us at info@gosbcta.com. Again, if you would like to listen to tonight's presentation using the Spanish interpretation, we have a live interpreter that's on and ready to translate the presentation for you. Just select Spanish from the translation option at the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to listen to the presentation translated in real time. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I'm just going to be sharing some information before we get started. Again, if you're interested in reviewing any of the plans that are being discussed during tonight's webinar, go ahead and visit gosbcta.com/Lytle Creek. Posted there, you'll be able to review the recreation management plan, as well as conceptual drawings that were prepared by the U.S. Forest Service. In addition, we have the traffic management plan prepared by the County Public Works. Our presenters will be talking more about those documents and what's in the plans, and feel free to peruse them at your convenience. They are all posted at the link on the screen now. In addition, as we've mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording of the presentation will be posted on the website as well. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes, right about 6:40. We just wanted to give folks a chance to log on and get situated. Thanks so much. I see we've already gotten a few questions. Thanks for using the Q&A box. We really appreciate that. Following our PowerPoint presentation, we will then get to the questions as they're being posed, and we'll pose those to our panelists who will answer them. If you are joining us via the dial-in feature and you're unable to enter your question using the Q&A box, go ahead and email those to our team at info@gosbcta.com. We're going to do our best to answer all of the questions posed during tonight's webinar. However, if we run out of time, rest assured that someone will be responding to your question via email, and we'll make sure to connect you with the appropriate team member to ensure that you get the information that you're looking for. We want to thank you all for joining us. We're going to be getting started with our formal presentation in just a few minutes. We'll get started right about 6:40. As I mentioned, during the presentation, please enter your questions using the Q&A box, which can be found at the menu along the bottom of your screen. If you run into a question after tonight's webinar has ended, or something that you'd like more information on, you can email us at info@gosbcta.com. You can also call our team at 877-55-SBCTA. Thanks so much, everybody. We're going to be getting started in just a minute. We want to thank you for joining us this evening. We look forward to presenting information on the Lytle Creek recreation area. We'll be hearing from staff from the U.S. Forest Service, as well as County Public Works. We also have some of our agency partners on the line, representing CHP, San Bernardino County Sheriff, as well as San Bernardino County Fire, and they'll be available to answer any questions that you may have following the presentation. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Thank you so much. One other note for our participants this evening, if you have a question, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We also want to reserve the chat function for our panelists. A member of our team may reach out to you for clarification or more information on your question, but we do want to encourage everyone, if you have a question that you'd like to have answered during tonight's presentation, be sure to enter it into the Q&A box as we are monitoring that closely. We may not be able to monitor the chat, but if you have a question that you want answered, we want to make sure that it's recorded in the Q&A box. It is 6:40. We're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. Again, we want to thank you all for joining us. At this time, we'll be providing an update on the Lytle Creek Recreation Management and Traffic Management Plans. These plans address improving public safety, mitigating traffic impacts for residents, improving communication to visitors during peak periods, and improving emergency response. Following the presentation, staff will be available to take your questions. To review the plans that are being discussed this evening, please visit gosbcta.com/Lytle Creek. The information presented tonight will be delivered by U.S. Forest Service and County Public Works. We also have representatives available from CHP, San Bernardino County Sheriff, San Bernardino County Fire, and they'll be available, like I said, following the presentation to help answer any questions. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our website for anyone that isn't able to join us live this evening. As part of the webinar feature, your microphone is muted and videos have been disabled. However, you will be able to see our panelists during the presentation. We'll be launching a few poll questions throughout the presentation. This information is anonymous and it's just used to help us get to know you, our audience, a little bit better. We're interested to know where everyone is joining us from, how you learned about the meeting, and this will also allow us to optimize communications for future presentations on this topic. This is an informational meeting to educate you about the proposed recreation management and traffic management plans. We believe all positions, positive or negative, should have a voice in the process, and we expect that this will all be done in a respectful manner. We reserve the right to monitor, filter, and remove content or participants that are deemed inappropriate. Thank you so much for helping us to keep this a positive environment for an exchange of information. We really appreciate it. At this time, I'll turn it over to Monique with SBCOG. Hi, Monique. And we'll just remind everybody to unmute.
Thank you. Apologize for that.
Would be a Zoom meeting with.
I know. I am Monique Reza Ariano with the San Bernardino Council of Governments, and I'm so happy to be with you as we discuss the Lytle Creek Management Plan, the proposed designs for the recreation areas, and the traffic management plan. So thank you for joining us in this much anticipated discussion. To get started, I want to provide a little bit of background and context regarding this plan if you're new to the area or to the region and you're kind of unaware of where this is coming from. So many of you might remember that in 2014, President Obama created the San Gabriel Mountains National Monument. And the designation followed lengthy discussions that had been taking place in Los Angeles County among many different stakeholders to get the federal government to designate the San Gabriel Mountains as a national monument in an effort to help preserve recreational opportunities, conserve habitat, and other public purposes. So while the San Gabriel Mountains are in both LA and San Bernardino counties, all of the dialogue until the very end had been taking place only among stakeholders in LA County. When it became likely that the president was going to take action to designate San Gabriel Mountains as a national monument, the leaders in San Bernardino County, really led by Supervisor Rutherford, asked for the portions of the mountain range in San Bernardino County to be excluded. And the exclusion was to allow for our residents and stakeholder groups the ability to understand the implications of that federal designation and to allow for local governance to regulate and enforce the issues that Lytle Creek Management Plan and the Traffic Management Plan seek to address. And the federal government honored that request, and since July 2015, the U.S. Forest Service Supervisor Rutherford's office, SBCOG, and County Public Works, as well as multiple law enforcement and public safety agencies, have been working to complete the management plan. So on behalf of the agencies and staff that have been a part of putting the management plan in place, we do appreciate your overextended patience, and we look forward to enjoyed use by both the recreating public as well as the residents of Lytle Creek. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the U.S. Forest Service and County Public Works. We're going to hear from Joe and Brendan, and Joe is going to discuss the overall plan and the site designs, and then he's going to turn over to Brendan, who will discuss the traffic management plan. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Monique. Before we get started and welcome Joe, we're going to start with our first two questions to poll the audience. Madison, my colleague, is going to be helping me. And our first question this evening, we'd love to know how you heard about the open house. Maybe it was on social media or from a community notice, friend or family member. Feel free to fill that out now and we'll get a peek at the results in just a minute. Again, the answers to these questions are anonymous. We're just using it as a tool to get to know our audience a little bit better and also to help us optimize communication for future presentations on this topic. And let's see those results when we're ready, Madison. Awesome. So it looks like a majority of folks received an email. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Next question. Pop up on your screen in a moment. How often do you visit Lytle Creek? Maybe once a month, a couple times a month? Or are you looking forward to planning your first visit? Go ahead and submit your answers and we'll take a look at the results. Again, the answers to these questions are anonymous. We're just using them as a good opportunity to get to know our audience a little bit better. Oh wow, so we've got a lot of frequent visitors. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you find the information tonight helpful. So that was the first two of 4 questions that we have this evening. At this time, I'd love to welcome Joe with the US Forest Service to tell us a little bit about the recreation management plan and how that was developed. Hi, Joe. Remember to unmute yourself and you can go ahead and turn your video on.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So my name is Joe Rexteiner. I'm the district ranger for the Front Country Ranger District. I've been here for just over 3 years now. And so really this recreation management plan, like Monique was saying, it's been in the works since 2014, several years before I got here, but certainly I feel fortunate being able to step into such a cool project and make a difference to the community. But the Lytle Creek Recreation Area Management Plan, it was developed really to provide strategic direction and guidance to improve recreation opportunities within Lytle Creek Recreation Area and to protect the natural and cultural resources of the canyon. As you know, we are a multiple use agency and we look at all the resources and look to manage them all. And what the plan does is it really provides a framework for informed decision-making while also guiding the resource management practices, uses, and the projects. And, kind of the way I like to think of any recreation project is, I refer to it as the 3 E's. So you've got engineering, we've got to develop the facilities to accommodate the people that we see up here. Education, we need to provide education to the people so they know what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And then the final E is enforcement, and enforcing the rules and the regulations that we have up here. And fortunately, we have a lot of good partners that help us with that effort. Next slide, please. So the goals of the recreation management plan. So it's to improve the variety, quality, and quantity of sustainable recreation opportunities in the Lytle Creek Canyon Recreation Area. It's to improve public communication, information, education, and engagement, maintain and protect and enhance those natural resources that, that's why we all come up here. That's why a lot of the community members live up here is to be in the mountains, be in these natural areas. But, mostly it's really to improve that public health and safety. Next slide, please. So as stated, we've been working on this for several years. And this planning effort really started, several years ago. Our partners, San Bernardino Council of Governments, they funded the plan like Monique was talking about. San Bernardino County Public Works, and we've been working with them, on the plan development as well as improving, the parking and traffic flows within Lytle Creek currently. And our law enforcement partners, San Bernardino County Sheriffs, California Highway Patrol, and of course our own Forest Service law enforcement. So what we did to get this work done is we had a contract with what's called an enterprise team. It's a Forest Service team, to develop the recreation management plan and the conceptual site design. The enterprise team at the beginning of this was, back in 2019, I believe, held a project specific workshop. It included several of the Lytle Creek residents, as well as San Bernardino Public Works, the San Bernardino County San Bernardino Council of Governments, as well as local Forest Service employees. And that was a 3-day workshop. Next slide, please. So the ongoing work with where we're going with this is, we're looking to engage the enterprise team again, and we've got them, they've got their engineers and their landscape architects coming out here this fall to put the final design and construction plans together. And so we're currently conducting this public meeting to engage the public, let them know what our plans are. And we want to hear your feedback, especially those conceptual site designs, with where we're looking to put improvements along that main Lytle Creek Road. And then the environmental review will start fall of 2021. And we will continue to work with Public Works. They've been a great partner. I'm sure a lot of you that have been up here in the canyon, you've seen the K-rail, which we've partnered with them to help alleviate some of those safety issues around some of the corners where traffic can get kind of heavy, and the congestion as well. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Joe. That actually takes us to a couple of our next poll questions. Again, I wanted to mention for the plans and the conceptuals that you mentioned, we want to encourage everyone to visit sbcta.com/Lytle Creek, and you'll be able to find a copy of all of the plans that are being discussed during tonight's meeting. At this time, I'd love to launch the last two poll questions for this evening. First one, where do you live? Where are you joining us from? We'd love to get a sense of who's represented tonight. Go ahead and fill that out, and we'll take a look at the results in just a moment. Again, this information is anonymous. It just helps us get to know who's in the audience and how we can improve and optimize our communications for any future meetings that are offered on this topic. Let's take a look at those results when they're ready. An overwhelming number of folks joining us from Lytle Creek. We want to thank all the members of the local community that are here. Thank you for representing your community this evening. We've also got 2% from Fontana, 2% from Rancho Cucamonga, same with Highland and Redlands. And we've also got about half of our participants, just approaching half, from somewhere outside those areas. We want to thank you for joining us as well. At this time, I would love to welcome Brendan Biggs with County Public Works. He's going to tell us about the traffic management plan that the county's prepared. Hi, Brendan. Thanks for joining us. Remember to take yourself off mute and turn that video on.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Glad to be here. I'm Brendan Biggs, Director of Public Works, and I'm just really glad to be here with all of you and our agency partners We've been just doing a tremendous amount of work over the last year, especially, and I'm just going to share a few highlights of what we've been up to and what we're going to be continuing to do. Go ahead and turn to the next slide. So as you know, last year with COVID, there's a lot of areas that were not open to the public. Lytle Creek was for at least a portion of the year. And so we saw a tremendous amount of traffic increase up the road, which caused some issues that all of the agencies got together and were working on different ways to resolve that. So what this part of this traffic management plan summarizes all that information. So one of the things that we had done, which I'll show in a couple other slides from now, is we started collecting data. So the traffic data over the weekend, some of those peak weekends, to see what kind of volumes that we were getting, and then trying to establish which traffic volume would start to cause issues with parking and congestion up the road. We also were looking at what kind of parking was available and how people were parking. And so the traffic management goals that we had when developing this is we're going to continue doing those traffic counting this year to see what changes are occurring because more things are opening up in Southern California. So we expect that'll affect Lytle Creek in some way. We want to determine the current parking capacity on both the road and the parking lot. So Joe and I have been, we're going to continue working on that. And we'll start to establish some traffic volume triggers based on those traffic volumes and available spaces, especially this summer as more visitors come up there. And then we're going to complete the evaluation of the roadside parking restriction locations. As you know, last year we put in a number of temporary no parking areas to try to control that, and we're going to complete that this year. We're looking to purchase some real-time traffic volume devices in the next couple of years. Right now we use traffic loops. So what we do is we put out the loops over a weekend, and then we got to go pick up the loops, download the data, and then we can start analyzing it. There's devices out there that we're going to be purchasing that will do this in real time. So we actually have a phone app, and we'll be able to see as those traffic numbers come up, and if they hit a certain trigger, we can get some text messages to take some kind of an action. We're also looking at possibility of purchasing electronic message boards to alert visitors when parking areas are full. If you've ever gone up to Mount Baldy area, they have, LA County had just purchased one of those at the bottom. It's kind of a big overhead electronic sign. So it's not like one of these temporary trailers like you see here in the picture. It's permanent, and we can message out many different types of things related to traffic and parking, and even if there's some kind of a hazard up there during storms or fires. So, and another thing we did is we have been meeting with some community members up there about some of the signage. There was some duplicate signage which we're looking at that we'll be moving forward with combining and trying to reduce some of that clutter. Next slide, please. As many of the residents know, last year we worked with the Forest Service and started identifying some problem areas along with law enforcement, and we were putting in some temporary no parking signs. We added some of those temporary electronic trailers where we were talking, messaging out that the traffic congestion over 2-hour delays. With the 4th of July weekend, we could turn those things on and make sure people understand that fireworks are illegal in county areas. We also started working with press releases with our agency partners so we can all have the similar message going out on our social media sites for those important messages that we want to get out that affect Lytle Creek. For the 4th of July weekend, before that we installed 33 sticks of K-rail, 55 type 1 barricades with temporary no parking signs, and 2 changeable message boards. So these are the types of things, once we get this really dialed in and we know what works and what's not working, we'll move to replace the temporary K-rail with something more permanent. Next slide. And this is just some shots of us working last summer, putting in those temporary K-rails. Next slide. We were taking traffic counts last year. Prior to 2020, the average daily traffic, which is during the week, was 2,400. That's a typical week. I didn't have any for the weekend, but you can see that during a peak time during July, this is towards the end of July, we're getting a lot of visitors. We were seeing up to 10,000 cars per day on the 26th of July of last year, which is, a huge increase over what you'd see during a typical work week. And then, the heaviest is on Sunday. Next slide. We started doing this again this year. We want to get a baseline. So end of April, we went up there again on a weekend, and the peak was around 6,600. So it's still quite a bit of traffic. It's obviously down from the summer, but the next one we're going to be doing is this coming weekend. That's Memorial Day weekend. So we'll get a shot of what that's going to look like. Depending on the weather, if it's not too hot, we may not see that many, but we'll continue getting these counts during the summer weekends and start looking for exactly what traffic we start to get up there, starts generating some of the problems that we're having. Next slide. And it's just a side-by-side comparison here of the 2020 and 2021 traffic counts. Next slide. Our law enforcement, and they can talk about this a little bit later, but our law enforcement have been very active last year and already this year with issuing parking citations. Now, last year, these numbers here, you see the little asterisk, it's for selected weekends only. They don't always hold on to how many tickets they do, but we were getting emails on certain weekends where they tell us how much they were doing. And these are minimum. So, there's at least 188 is what they were telling us over a few weekends last year. And already this year, they're at 180. So there's a lot of work that they already are doing. For those that live up there, you would notice that people were double parked and park in areas where there's no parking. Law enforcement, we're doing a great job up there ticketing everybody. So this plan, what we're looking forward to is putting more tools in place that will help out with the enforcement, no parking areas and physical barriers to try to direct people to those designated parking areas that the Forest Service plan is developing. And then when we know how much parking we have and what kind of congestion numbers we get, all of the partnering agencies that you see here tonight are in constant communication, so we can start to message out, hey, the parking's full, there's no more parking up here, not on the road or not, in the parking campground, so we can get people to try to turn around at the bottom before they come up there and congest the roads. Next slide. And this is a document that's going to be continually throughout this year as we start gathering more data and coming up with more ideas. So we look forward to working with the community and our agency partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brendan, for sharing that information. It was really thorough. I especially appreciated the graphs. I think that helps to provide some context to the different numbers that we're seeing. If you're attending this evening and you're interested in reviewing any of the plans that were discussed tonight, please visit gosbcta.com/Lytle Creek. You'll be able to review the recreation management plan and some of the conceptual drawings that Joe presented on, as well as the traffic management plan that Brendan just discussed. We're also going to be posting a recording of tonight's webinar on that website for anyone that was unable to join us live for the presentation. At this time, we're going to go ahead and welcome our Q&A. Thank you. We've already got several questions in the Q&A box. Just a refresher, if you do have a question tonight, please make sure to use the Q&A box that can be found in the menu at the bottom of your screen. We'll reserve the chat feature for members of our team to reach out to you in case we have questions for clarification or maybe to get some more information about your questions. So again, just a reminder, please direct all of your questions into the Q&A box so that we can monitor them. We're going to be answering the questions in the order received. We have responded via chat to a few folks. So in just a moment, I will begin posing questions to our team. All right, Q&A. For our panel members, go ahead and turn your video on at this time. And as questions come up that pertain to your area of expertise, please be sure to unmute yourself when you're ready to answer. The first question tonight, what type of resources will be given to Lytle Creek this spring and summer? Will nature passes and parking be enforced? Will forestry rangers be present? And I will defer to the team if that relates to your area of expertise.
So let me, this is Joe again. So let me speak on that, and I'll call on my, my recreation specialist as well, Travis Mason, to help me out with that. But, in particularly what resources will be given to Lytle Creek this spring and summer. So we do have extra recreation technicians that we've hired. So we do have more of a force than we've had last year. We've got agreements with the Urban Conservation Corps. Of course, folks that were around last year, they may have seen them, in the creek and along the roads cleaning up. We've also got a contract with the Diamondback crew is what we call them, and they're a probationary crew, and they come up and do cleanup as well. We've increased the number of our dumpsters, and the number of times that they're being serviced, as well as porta potties. I know, Travis, what else do you got to add there?
Hi, good evening, and thank you. So the CARES Act funding is where we're getting these extra funds to be able to take care of the porta potties, moving the cleaning of those porta potties up to almost 5 days a week, and the trash pickup to 2 to 3 days a week as we get more into the summer season. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The next question that we have, where will US Forest Service get funding since they say they don't have funds for what needs to be done? I think Travis may have just answered that, but I'll defer.
Yes, we received CARES Act funding and Great American Outdoor Act funding to help us handle the crowds of this upcoming summer season.
Excellent. Thanks, Travis. The next question, when you review your proposed parking development sites, have you considered that your Hidden Acres proposed sites have been washed out during our 10-year flood cycles?
Yeah, well, so, and, part of this plan is we're looking to develop, resilient facilities, that'll be able to withstand, impacts from flooding. And I know what you're thinking, Mother Nature can be pretty brutal at times, and we can try and engineer our ways out of it. But we're keeping that in mind, as well as, the changing conditions, when we see more extreme weather events, we can expect more flooding. But yes, that is part of our consideration, and will continue to be our consideration as we move through the environmental process, because really, that's what it's about, is, having facilities out there that are sustainable, and they're going to withstand the pressures of the public and the pressures of nature.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Joe. The next question, are traffic management plans being considered for other unincorporated San Bernardino County areas such as Wrightwood?
I'll go ahead and take this one. Yeah, that's a great question. And we do have other task force, not related to the this effort, but we have other efforts with CHP and sheriff and law enforcement, all the different agencies, US Forest Service, in all areas of the mountains, including Wrightwood. We do have a team up there. The biggest effort so far has been in the snow play arena. So when we get, those areas get a lot of congestion due to the snow play. So we are working on that. But we do have teams that we put together. We do meet periodically. One up in Mount Baldy has been great, for battling some of the snow-related issues that we had last year. So we do have these in other areas. And if you're in one of those communities and you want to find out more information about it, just feel free to reach out to us, and we can let you know what we're up to. And all of those at some point we have public meetings where we share that information.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Just a reminder for all of our attendees, we want to encourage you to enter your questions into the Q&A box, which can be found along the menu at the bottom of your screen. We're going to reserve the chat feature for members of our team to reach out to you if we need more information or to get clarification on your question. So to ensure that we are able to see your question, be sure to enter it into the Q&A box. Thanks for that. The next question that we have, where on the Canyon Road will the traffic monitoring mechanisms be placed?
We haven't totally determined that yet, somewhere near the bottom, so we can, make sure we pick up everybody that's coming up there. So they'll be, and I don't know how many we're going to have, at least, one device, but we may have a couple of them so we can try to get a handle on where people are going, where they're stopping and where the most of the congestion will be. So that we'll work that out a little bit later once we find the system. And we also have to keep in mind that I think these systems are solar powered, or they use cellular lines. So we got to make sure we have reception. So we'll take all that into consideration when we go to place it.
Great, thanks so much, Brendan. The next question looks to be a two-parter, and I hope there's enough context here. Attendee is asking, what parking areas are you talking about and how will the number be determined?
So I'll take that one. The parking areas that I'm talking about are what we're proposing to develop along the main Lytle Creek Road. So we've got an area called the Alders, that's just above Long Bridge. We've also got the Hidden Acres area, as well as the Bonita Falls parking area and trailhead. So those are the areas we're looking at adding parking. And it's going to be a developed parking area with restrooms. It's going to have information kiosks. It's going to have trash receptacles. So really it's to provide, like I said at the beginning, the users a better experience and also reduce the impacts to the natural resources. Now, currently what we do have up the main Lytle Creek Road is what I consider general forest areas. And that's where people are just parking along the side of the road and going out and doing their business. There still will be some of those areas, but those will be reduced. Again, focusing on the areas with safety concerns, as well as, areas where there's concerns about, the natural resources, the animals or the watershed, whatever it might be. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Joe. The next question that we have, will you be staffing the fire station during holiday and red flag days? We already see campfire along Middle Fork and Creek Bed. Chief O'Hara, I know, is on with us.
Yes, I'll take this. Thank you. That's a great question as well. County Fire, we'd love to staff that station 7 days a week. Obviously, we are talking about it now. It is in consideration. We have to manage the funds and the current staffing crisis that we are in, but it is we understand the severity and the need for it, and we are currently discussing that now as well.
Thank you so much, Chief.
Hey, Marisa, and if I could just add
Yes.
to that, so we do have
wonderful.
our, Lytle Creek fire station. We've got an engine up here. It's fully staffed. We also have one down at Sycamore, just on the Glen Helen Parkway area, and they're staffed. So I know the question was probably directed at the county, but there are fire resources very close up here in Lytle Creek, in fact.
That's great. Thank you, Joe. The next question we have, when will the other half of the picnic area be opened? I don't know if there's a particular picnic area in mind or if we need more context to answer
I think
that.
he's talking about the Applewhite picnic area. And Travis, if you could help me answer that question, that'd be great.
No problem. Thank you. The Applewhite picnic area is at 100% open. We're operating that picnic area Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And as we build more capacity in the recreation technician positions, we'll be opening up more days.
Excellent. Our next question. Let's see. The comment is, attendee has a concern about egress in an emergency. There are projections being seen that it is a drought year. roads like Sheep Canyon Road are pretty rough. And just thinking about gridlock in egress during an emergency. Any comments on that from our panelists?
So I'll jump in on there. So, Sheep Canyon, and well, let me just start by saying, we do have limited budgets with our, agency. And so we try to get road maintenance done on every road every several years or so. And so we do try to get to those roads when we can. I did let my engineers know that that is a concern with the community. And if there's any extra funding, if they could, do some maintenance on those roads. I believe the last time I went across anyways, the Applewhite Road was looking pretty good. But yeah, that Sheep Canyon Road, it was pretty rough last time I went over that.
Thank you, Joe. Next question I see, will the canyon be closed due to fire danger? I'll defer to, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I should jump in there or who wants to take that, but when we get into enhanced fire restrictions, we look at closing down. Well, right now we're looking at closing enhanced fire restrictions for dispersed camping. So that would be up at our Yellow Post sites, outside of the Applewhite picnic area, as well as shooting restrictions. Now, as the summer progresses and the conditions warrant, we'll go into even more enhanced restrictions and reduce those fires, that are in charcoal grills that are being allowed within the picnic area. And if it gets really, really bad, and I've never experienced this, but I've heard about it, that, whole areas are closed down due to high fire danger. But it's based on the conditions when we get there. And I would agree it is a very dry year this year.
Thank you so much, Joe. The next question, and we see a comment. The questions are coming from residents in Lytle Creek. So thank you. Yes, we want to thank the local community who's participating tonight. Thanks for your comments and questions. The next question for the team, what will be done in the Middle Fork area? Will there be Forest Service staff at night to deal with visitors?
Well, I'll take that one again. So, the Middle Fork area, we do have one law enforcement officer for the entire district, which we've got, 264,000 acres, a pretty big area. And they do, service the whole district. And, they do go into that Middle Fork area. Most of our patrols, though, they're going to be there during the day. We've got fire prevention technicians as well as recreation technicians that do their, patrols. But it's only Forest Service law enforcement that'll go there during the evenings, and fairly limited with their what we've got there. But I would say, if you've got concerns, if you see concerns up there, certainly reach out to your law enforcement, depending on what it is, and let them know that you've got a situation up there that needs to be dealt with.
Thank you, Joe. And Chief O'Hare, I see you've got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you, Marissa. I just wanted to go back to that egress question as well,
Thank
too.
you.
And partners, Joe and Sergeant Matthew as well, too, from the Sheriff's Office. One of the keys to successful egress for the residents is early egress. If there is an emergency situation, i.e. a fire, instead of waiting until it's too late, as we are going to have several police officer resources, fire resources coming up that hill to mitigate that situation quickly, and aircraft of the whole 9 yards. A lot of times residents will wait too late, and it creates more of a congestion factor than compared to early egress. And I know it's hard to leave your home, but a day at the beach may not be a bad idea, and let us handle it, and we'll let you back in as soon as we can. If Joe, you want to speak to that as well too, or Officer Matthew, I think that'd be a good point, because our officers are key players in our evacuation process while fire personnel are extinguishing the fire.
So in regards to evacuations, we wait for the fire department to let us know that there is a mandatory evacuation or an evacuation, or a voluntary evacuation order in place. And so when a deputy comes and knocks on your door and says, hey, we need you guys to either get out as a mandatory evacuation, or hey, it's time to think about it because the fire is getting close to you, it's a good idea to probably consider leaving the residence and allowing fire to do their jobs and put the fire down. Waiting too long, we saw what happened in the Blue Cup fire. People decided to stay in their homes and unfortunately pay the price for it. Your home can be replaced, your life cannot. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Peterson, Chief O'Hara, for providing that additional information. Appreciate it. The next question, will a vehicle capacity estimate be used to potentially limit the number of visitors on heavy use weekends? It's a great question.
I can kind of take a stab at this. We are working with the different agencies that you see here over this next coming year to identify those traffic volumes that start to cause issues. And the idea behind the, setting those trigger points is to start messaging out to the visitors that it's full. We have limited legal options to actually close a road for that reason, because it is a public road. The County of San Bernardino maintains it as a public road, so it has to be open for use. But there are situations, obviously when we can close it, with fires and things that people have been talking about. But the first effort that we'll be doing is to try to get messaging out to slow the rate of visitors coming up there by alerting them early that that there isn't any place for them to park up there.
Excellent, thank you. The next question, in the recreation plan, there's no call out for staffing numbers. What will the permanent staffing levels be for this plan for enforcement and for maintenance?
I'll take this one. I just wanted to kind of shed a little bit of light on the plan itself. It's really a long-term plan, so it's difficult to identify numbers specific to how we will do this for the rest of the time that is open to the public. Population changes, the recreation site can increase, decrease, residents in the area increase, decrease. So it's difficult to identify specific staffing numbers for any of the agencies. So thank you for the question.
Thank you so much, Monique. The next question, and actually just a quick announcement for folks, we've got about 8 minutes left during tonight's webinar. We want to thank you all for submitting your questions. We're going to try to get through as many as we can in the next few minutes. If you have a question and we maybe don't get to it yet tonight on the live portion of the webinar, I'm going to put up some more information. You can email our team info@gosbcta.com, or you can call us 877-55-SBCTA. Our team will be receiving questions there. We'll make sure to get your question to the appropriate party and make sure to get you the information that you need. So I just wanted to offer that quickly. And the next question that we have Canyon Road racing in the Upper Canyon above Happy Jack, which is US Forest Service Road. This activity usually occurs in the evening, and there have been fatalities on this paved road. Will there be additional monitoring in this area late in the day?
Hi, I'll start with this one. My name is Captain
you.
Mario Lucio. I'm with the CHP San Bernardino area. And I encourage all residents who witness illegal racing activity, dangerous, reckless driving to call 911 to report the incident. We'll send a couple units out and take the appropriate enforcement action. We rely on the public's assistance in many instances such as this. Give us a call and we'll investigate it thoroughly.
Thank you so much, Captain Lucio. Appreciate that. Next question that I see, can can escape routes other than Lytle Creek Road, Sheep Canyon, and Applewhite Road be maintained more often? In case of a wildfire on a weekend, there'll be no way to get out on the main road. So is there other roads that will be maintained if needed?
So I think I kind of addressed this one a little bit earlier, about the limited funding, and we try to get around to maintain roads, all roads. And we don't necessarily get to roads, every road every year. But I did ask our engineers, let them know that those roads are a concern to the Lytle Creek residents. And if we do get some extra funding, if they have any options for, doing a modification to the contract to get that road taken care of.
Thank you, Joe. And I think that goes back to a point that some of our other panelists offered and encouraged. In the event of an emergency, it makes sense to leave your property as early as notified. So thank you so much for that. The next question. Who can we expect to be up here for Memorial Day to keep the canyon safe? I think a few of our folks have touched on that, but it is a multi-agency effort, and I'll let someone chime in if we'd like to elaborate there.
I can start off with this one as well. The
you.
California Highway Patrol will be up there all holiday weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So you will see an increase in view patrol from us. We are expecting to have a peaceful and safe weekend for both community members and visitors to the canyon. So the way we do take care of business is we mitigate traffic incidents as quickly as possible. We want to keep the efficient flow of traffic so emergency vehicles can get up and down the canyon. And we're just looking for a very safe weekend for all.
I'll jump in on this one as well. We will respond to any and all calls for service, especially those of an emergency nature. I also noticed a question that I don't see anymore. However, we are aware of a few incidents that have been occurring up in the Lytle Creek area, and we are planning for additional zero tolerance and high visibility patrols up there in order to mitigate those issues. But in any event, by all means, call us if you see something that's either dangerous or a violation of the law, and we will go up there and investigate. Speaking very highly of the California Highway Patrol in regards to parking citations, I am the primary reviewer, the initial reviewer of all parking citations in the Lytle Creek and actually any area that the Fontana Sheriff Station covers. And I can tell you that the San Bernardino CHP is up there and up in the Mount Baldy area, constantly writing citations for the recreation pass. And oftentimes I will not dismiss those or mitigate those because the information is readily available on the U.S. Forest Service website, as well as the ability to purchase such passes for anyone who's not in the Lytle Creek area or a resident of Lytle Creek. I would highly recommend you visit the U.S. Forest Service website to A, see where they are required, and B, get one of those passes so that you're not going to receive a citation, and I would have to enforce that citation.
Thanks very much, Sergeant Peterson. We have just a few more minutes. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi. Also too, Marissa, for County Fire, even though we may not, because of our staffing crisis, may not be able to staff that station, I will have our fire engine up and down the, excuse me, I think I froze. I will have our fire engine in the area with a show of presence and patrolling as much as they can during that weekend.
Excellent. Thank you. Travis, I see your hand up as well. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you again. We will also have an increase of recreation technicians over this weekend and future holiday weekends.
Excellent. Thank you. We've got just a few more minutes left for the webinar tonight. Again, if we don't get to your question, please be sure to email us info@gosbcta.com, and we'll make sure to get you in touch with the appropriate person on the team to provide an answer to your question. Let's see here. Trying to find some questions. We've seen several themes tonight, so I'm going to try to find something that maybe we haven't touched on yet. Thanks for bearing with me as I'm scrolling through the questions here. A lot of questions about capacity and how that's going to be monitored, which I think we've touched on a little bit. Let's see. Will any of the SCE hydro facilities be impacted? I see a proposed Army Corps barrier being installed just down the canyon from the intake. Let's see here. This will be problematic. Oops, my question just disappeared. This will be problematic offloading tracked heavy equipment for maintenance activities. Anybody want to take a stab at that one?
Sure, I'll take a stab at that. Yeah, provide us those comments, and I know we got the email address there. You can reach out to me in particularly, because we certainly don't want to interrupt SCE's hydro facilities in that area. But yeah, let us know what that concern is.
Thank you so much, Joe. We are just past 7:30, so we are going to close our webinar at this time. We want to thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate the attendance and the engagement with the different questions and answers. And also thank you to our presenters and our panel members as well for being here to engage with the community and provide answers to their questions. We want to encourage everyone, if you had a question in the box that did not get answered, or if you think of something over the weekend that you do want information to, again, please email us at the address on the screen. You can also give us a call, 877-55-SBCTA. Before we sign off, Lieutenant Simonton, I see that you've got your hand raised. I don't want to overlook you.
No, that was an accident. I apologize for that one.
Oh, no problem at all. I love these different features. It makes it really easy to make sure that we get everybody engaged. So thank you for being with us. With that, we're going to conclude tonight's webinar. Again, thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. A recording of this webinar will be posted on the website, gosbcta.com/Lytle Creek. In addition, you can also find copies of all the different plans that were discussed tonight, as well as a copy of this PowerPoint presentation that will be posted before the end of the week. We want to wish everyone a safe Memorial Day weekend. Thank you all for joining us. And again, if you had a question tonight that we were not able to answer, email us, info@gosbcta.com. We'll make sure to put you in touch with the team member who can best address your question. Thank you so much, everyone. And that concludes tonight's webinar.
Thanks. Bye-bye.